All right, so let me talk real quick about something I saw on the internet. There's a video going around where the question was, should you make your teenage children pay their bills or contribute to the bills? And I'm pretty sure the people who posted this video didn't intend it to become what it was, because the video is really funny. It's actually hilarious. But a lot of conversation around it, like the retweets and the comments and things like that, got very kind of into this idea of teenagers contributing to bills, and how a significant amount of people seem to feel like it's unfair, it's not right. You know, how can you make your children pay for your bills? That's terrible. They didn't ask to be here. You know, no, things like that. And I wanted to speak to that a little bit, because if we're talking teenage years like 16, 17, then yeah, I'd agree. You shouldn't have to be contributing at that point, because you know, at that age, you've probably just got your first job, right? You're probably working part-time. You're just trying to save a little money so you can take your girl out. You shouldn't really have to be contributing to the bills at that point. Not that you mustn't, but I feel like you shouldn't really have to be at that point. But once she turned 18, that's a different story. You got to understand that you are an adult now, right? If you're 18 and over, you are an adult now. Now, at that point, you need to start being responsible. And that means contributing to bills. If you're living with your parents, contributing to bills. Like, you can't be like, oh, I didn't ask to be here and I'm living with them, so they should come. Nah, they didn't ask to be here either. Okay, they didn't ask to be here either. None of us asked to be here. That is, in my opinion, one of the dumbest things you can say as a way of trying to absolve yourself from responsibility. I didn't ask to be here. None of us asked to be here, but here we are. Yeah, here we are. And once you're 18, you are legally an adult. And your parents have no responsibility for you as an adult. They don't. They do not have to be looking after you anymore. They do not have to keep you in their house anymore. But the fact that they let you stay in their house, right, they're not kicking you out. At least, well, I assume they're not kicking you out. Some parents be throwing your bags out the door before you even got another place to stay. But generally speaking, they're not kicking you out the house. They let you stay there. You're legally an adult. Contribute. Because you got to understand, council tax is not free, yeah? Electricity, gas, water is not free. Food is not free. So I ain't saying you gotta pay all the bills at that age, because that's unfair, but to expect your parents to cover everything for you once you are an adult living in their house is ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous. And the thing is, once you do move out, you're going to see the difference between people who understand responsibility and people who don't. Because the type of people who just let their parents do everything, pay all the bills, do all the cooking, do all the cleaning, do all the house care, all that kind of stuff, they move out and they just cannot cope. They cannot cope. They're the type of people who just leave dishes in the sink and never come back to it. The type of people who never take the rubbish out. The type of people who don't realize you gotta clean the bathroom. The type of people who don't realize you actually have to take your clothes out of the washing machine. The type of people who go spend all their money on all kinds of whatever before they've paid their rent, before they put aside money for groceries, before they put aside money for any other bills. They just spend all their money because they're not used to budgeting. They're not used to being responsible. If you are an adult living with your parents, contribute. And when I say contribute, I mean contribute. I don't mean treat it like a hotel. Just because you're contributing to the bills don't mean you don't have to do anything else. You still have to help out with the cleaning. You still have to help out with the cooking. You still have to help out with the shopping. You still have to help out with the general house care. Because you got to understand as well that you are partly responsible for the place that you live. That means if the toilet breaks and you need to hire a plumber, you are partly responsible for that as well. And the earlier you understand that, the earlier you get used to the idea of being responsible, being organized, budgeting correctly, by the time you do move out, whether you live on your own, whether you're sharing with somebody, you'd have a much easier time of dealing with it. And I say easier, it does not get easy. You just have an easier time of dealing with it. Because living on your own, or let's say living away from your parents, is a lot harder than living with your parents. Because that contribution you was making to help out with your parents, that's going to be a lot more where you're going to cover all the bills yourself. So if you go from never contributing, never taking responsibility for anything, just letting your parents do everything for you, if you go from that to then moving out and having to do everything, you are going to struggle. But if you're at least used to the idea of doing it, if you at least have an understanding of these are the types of things that you need to be aware of, by the time you get your own place or sharing or whatever, you'd have an easier time of dealing with it. So yeah, 16, 17, whatever. Once you're 18 though, once you're legally an adult, yeah, you should be contributing. And not only that, if your parents are not kicking you out of the house, be grateful for that, because they do not have to keep you there anymore. Understand that. They do not have to keep you in the house once you are legally an adult. They have no legal responsibility for you once you turn 18. So the fact they're letting you stay there where you can work your job, save your money, contribute a little bit, understand that that is a big blessing. That is a big blessing, because not everybody gets that.